alongside Royden Ogletree. And Royden, I'm going to get like the awkwardness out of the way right away.
Yeah.
We stole something from your desk and you didn't even know. We were there on Saturday.
It was my prized possession, as you can tell.
Of the Wasp, what I'm only assuming is a Happy Meal toy.
Yeah, shout out to Angie, who I used to work with, who just gave me this. It was like, here, she's yours now. And then she left. And I was like, all right. But then I got a text from Paul at what? No later than 10 a.m. on a Saturday.
It was probably about 10:02.
Meet our demands or the Wasp gets
10:30. It was about 10:30 because we go 9 to 10:30. We had to, and Royden was not involved in this. And I'm glad for your sake that you weren't.
I'm so glad I wasn't either.
But we on Saturday morning I woke up to several texts from Encore saying the power is out. And my first thought was like, I woke up and I'm like, no, it's not.
And my place is fine.
My fan's on, like, like my sleep machine, didn't go out. Like, I can see the, like the glow of the air conditioner unit. Like, no, I think I'm okay. And then like I looked and it said at 101 Elm, and I was like, oh crap. Okay. Well. So the
product of doing this show, by the way, Inside Baseball, just at 9, like having a hard call time at 9 a.m.
Yeah, on Saturday mornings when you're late Fridays and all that. So I get in the car, I come down here, I call Josh Young, your boss, and I was like, hey, we don't have electricity, and I'm gonna go see how bad it is, and I'll see if like there's a tech out there, and I'll ask them because I keep getting texts that's going an hour, and sometimes they put those things there so that people quit calling them, so they're like, look, we know that there's a power outage. We figure by at least 10 or so that it should be back on. But really, they just need the time to like, go flip the right switch. I come here and Elm is blocked up. Elm is blocked off.
You can't even get here.
I can't even get here. So you had to make a U-turn. And there's trucks, guys up in the bucket, and the power lines are not taut. They're drooping.
Oh,
Garrett got here a little before me, but I can only assume they were a little bit worse when he got here, but they were drooping.
I was more distracted by being blocked off when I turned on the road and immediately had to bust a U-turn illegally than like looking where the lines distract. They run
right into those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, the thing is that those like I'm looking at the lines and we didn't have a storm or anything. So something happened and they just came down sometime.
A really big squirrel.
I mean, so then it makes this is maybe the oldest area in Waco, like where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, East Waco.
Yeah, it is the oldest part of the town. This is where if you look at the pictures, you go into
this was here before the bridge was here.
Yeah,
not this building, but
but this is here. Yeah, before the bridge was here. This is where the last legal red light district in America was right here.
Fun fact, that is a true statement. Though,
yeah,
that I
it was last legal. This was Whore Alley.
And it still is.
So, but yeah, this is if you turn an Elm, there's Syphilis Street is right down here.
Yeah,
and the
Gonorrhea Corner.
Yeah, the Clap Avenue there's a great restaurant on the Clap Avenue. You guys got to try.
It's called This Burns. Try our spicy wings.
Yeah, but yeah, so it just concerned me, and so we went and we did a show, and everything was fine.
I'm sure everything was fine for our TMPs who were probably actively freaking out.
They were calm. You know what? Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm the talent, and so that doesn't mean anything in this room at all.
Yeah.
They don't care, but in news it does.
Mm-hmm.
Because you, on occasion, have to deal with personalities that are on television every day, and they know that.
They have been on television every day
for a long time, and you get that. Ron Burgundy is not a spoof. It's it is too real.
I had a guy, and I won't say his name, but I had a guy that I worked with who was in Beaumont, who's a longtime news guy. And you think that news voice thing is a bit, and most people around here, when you listen to him on the news, they sound like what they sound like in real life. His name, I don't want to say his name, but he's like, my name's Royden Ogletree, and I'm here to read the news.
Yeah.
And I was just like, is that real? And then he'd sometimes get off the set and be like, Royden, hell of a story. And I'm like, this is the longest running bit.
I'll tell you, one of the people I've met in my life here who was a real life Ron Burgundy. Like, he dated a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. He used to be the anchor. You've probably seen old pictures of him at your studio. His name Ron Hall.
Yeah.
And Ron Hall, I knew him in his retirement where he was just doing VOs. Like, he would come in and read radio spots and he'd be like, this is Ron Hall for Dealers Lighting. Dealers Lighting, great deals on kitchen, dining room, and more. How about a new chandelier for that dining room?
Yeah.
And like, he would do that. And so his voice was fantastic. It was fantastic. And like, the first time I met him, I was just sitting, like, somebody said, hey, can you go record Ron real quick? And I was like, hey, Ron, I'm Paul. And he's like, oh, hello. And I thought he was just kind of like, he said, oh, hello. And I was like, how's the level? And he's like, oh, it's good. And I thought, okay, well, he's putting on his voice because he's about to do like 5 different commercials. He's just going to rattle them out. Rattle them all out in about a take and a half average. Like, there was just a couple where he like, like right in the middle and stopped. He was super pro. I mean, unbelievable. But then, like, after he was done, we went out and he was talking to him. I was like, hey, I'm just new in radio and, nice to meet you. And he's like, oh, well, I was at Channel 10 for 27 years. And, and so I thought, he's just still like,
he's doing a bit. Yeah.
I mean, he's still in character because he's like, he's just off of it. So then he comes in again and he had left he comes in again and reads some spots and then it goes on. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. And finally,
you can drop it.
So finally, like, one of the times he came in, he left his reading glasses and like on a desk, and we had a call box downstairs. And so I picked up the phone. It's like, hello, Paul, this is Ron Hall. I believe I left my reading glasses on the desk. Can you see if they're there for me? And I said, oh yeah, sure. I'll bring them on downstairs. And so I go and run him downstairs. He's like, thank you very much. I'm on my way to lunch. I'm going to have a cheeseburger at Double R. And I was like, oh, this is how you talk all the time. Yeah. Like, it has now become you. And, all I could think of was like, Ron Burgundy's real.
Yeah.
Like, and.
Well, it's funny to think about when like they go home, hello, honey, I'd like to make love to you tonight. And they're just like, and somewhere there's a woman or someone that has to be like, okay.
Yeah.
No.
I thought of it. The person I always think of is Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
Because Kelsey Grammer has this really distinct, wonderful voice, and he's still Frasier, like, but huge fan of Cheers and Frasier and all that. And like, I thought like, oh, this is like, and I see Kelsey Grammer being interviewed for, whatever he's doing. And he's still like, even some of these crap movies he's done, well, I am like, I just hear, I'm listening.
Yeah.
And like, it's.
No, I didn't take this as a cash job.
Yeah. No. I really enjoy it.
Straight to DVD film is magnificent.
Yeah.
Anyway, to just all that to say behind baseball, the inside baseball, the amount of like scrambling that y'all had to do to probably get that show on Saturday. I just remembered I texted Josh and I took a screenshot and it was y'all on the desk. And I thought, oh, did we just move this? And I didn't hear about it, whatever. And, but on YouTube TV, because I think it like threw some things off, it just wants you to know that our show said Mission Unstoppable, Dinosaurs, Dyslexia, and Diseases was the title of the big Baylor Sick'em 365 Baylor sports show.
Well, we did talk about dinosaurs who could not read well. It was a big problem. It's a big problem. You could see, like, if you look at a Tyrannosaurus Rex, like, quite often you could see that they were confused.
Yeah, no, there's a charity for that.
Yeah, there are. And,
For only $10 a day.
I'm very involved in dinosaurs with dyslexia and diseases. If we can wipe out rickets and brontosaurus, I mean that would be something. I don't know if people know how much they suffer from rickets, but it's tragic.
Yeah, just for 20 cents a day, you two can give a stegosaurus a neck brace.
Royden, last week, if you looked at the college football schedule, you would have been like, nah. Yeah,
in fact,
yeah, and you did I mean, you weren't here last week. You had to go in early to work, but it was one of the things we were going to talk about last week. I think when I sent you, it was like, hey, we're gonna the schedule this week's just kind of like, nah.
Yeah.
And there were 2 games against ranked opponents. Both of them sucked out loud.
Yeah.
Texas,
the Tennessee, Florida,
Wall of Michigan,
and the NC State game they just were overmatched.
It's 51-10.
Yeah.
Like, what are you
Grayson McCall looked rattled. He doesn't look like he even almost didn't belong in that level of competition, which is unfortunate because I have a lot of Grayson McCall stock for a long time.
Yeah.
But I mean, Tennessee's defensive line just was like living in his lap. So
yeah, it was. Texas,
Michigan.
Michigan.
What happened?
That was such. And
Texas fans will say we're good, and I know that, but I'm just saying.
But the thing is, it's not that Texas is good. It's depressing that Michigan is following up a national championship after 27 years of not having one with this.
Yeah.
It's just, but I do think that that's the reality of college football now, where it's going to be harder and harder to see dynastic teams out there. Now, Georgia's built one because Kirby Smart was ahead of the curve. We'll see what Ohio State does. We'll see. In Texas, I think Steve Sarkisian's probably a little ahead of the curve. But even then, I don't think those things are going to last near as long, because all it's going to take is, one big injury or, one whiff at a quarterback, who is ever after Carson Beck. What if they suck? Then all of a sudden, you whiff and you
unforeseen things reset the deck a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And
scandals, what have you.
And it's going to happen. It's going to happen more and more now in college football. But I do but last week, looking at schedule, you'd say blah, and the 2 games that were supposed to be good were blah.
Yeah.
The games that were all supposed to be bad were all good. The Big 12 was on high alert all day long.
Right.
Kansas State almost lost to Tulane. Kansas did lose to Illinois. Oklahoma State is lucky to get out with their lives against Arkansas.
How much did they have to come back in that game? They were down by
They were down
scores?
by 20. It was 21-7, right, Garrett?
I think so.
Yeah.
2 touchdowns.
Yeah. And it might have been 24-7 at one point or something like that. It was, they then came back and took the lead, and then Arkansas came back and tied it, and they went to overtime. And then overtime they both missed field goals in the first one, which
I love college football. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
one of these days, the most popular sport in our country will either Larry David and get rid of the kickers, or let's put some real effort into doing this.
Well, the highest paid player in the NFL is going to be a guy that can figure out how to kick right at the 20-yard line now.
Yeah.
And let it bounce. So to get people to actually have to return it.
Yeah.
That new kickoff rule, just a side tangent, that new kickoff rule, early on, people were like, just kick it, just let them have it at the 30.
Yeah.
They don't care. You have to make it at the 45 for them to actually want to return the football. But I digress. That being said, Iowa State hit a 54-yarder to walk it off.
With a freshman. Again, everybody was on high alert in the Big 12. Everybody was on high alert in the ACC. I mean, there was crazy stuff going on. The SEC didn't have a great day.
Oklahoma nearly lost to
Houston. Kentucky, my God, Liam Cohen's gone, and
they're bad.
And they were awful against South Carolina. I'm not trying to knock South Carolina, but Kentucky wasn't doing anything in that game with bringing in Brock Vandegrift, who couldn't win the job at Georgia. So but you thought well, a lot of people can't win the job at Georgia. He's probably going to be fine at Kentucky. Well, no, not yet. They brought in other transfer players. I mean, they had to make up for Ray Davis being gone, who was one of the better players in the SEC last year that maybe not a lot of people talk about.
Fair play. South Carolina might have the best defensive line in college football. or at least the best like edge rushers. Dylan Stewart, I don't know if you've seen him. 6'6", 250. He's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft in like 3 years.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like just fair play to, but Kentucky was bad, but fair play. South Carolina is really like, I think improved.
They have the number 1 guy on the freaks list who doesn't catch any passes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so
6'6",
weird.
250. Go look up for those of you who are watching, go look up his highlights. They're all over Twitter.
Yeah.
He's just like dipping under people and like bull rushing people and getting home.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
No, we will get your opinions later in the show about Colorado. We talked about it at length yesterday, so I kind of want to give a little time.
Ugh.
But it was a wild week, right? And Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. We had Coach Hammock on yesterday. I encourage people to go back and watch that interview. It was really funny. It was really great. We were not alone. Like he did 12 yesterday, so
this was NIU's head coach that was emotional on the sideline.
Yeah.
That was cool to see.
Yeah, and he's an alum, so it's just woven into his DNA, and so that was really cool. But there were so many cool things that happened. Look, I haven't brought up Texas Tech yet, who got absolutely curb stomped by Washington State, and they've got Garrett brought this up yesterday, and then Craig brought it up later, but there was a noticeable quiet in Lubbock this offseason, and smart coaches, and Joey McGuire is a very smart coach.
Damn smart.
He's a very smart coach. Now, I know that Texas Tech fans in the current state disagree with me, but I'll tell you, he's a very smart guy. And it's one of those things that it's kind of an unspoken thing that coaches do, is like when you hear a coach not talk a lot about things after a year where they did talk about things, where there's like a 180 on it, it's not because they decided to not talk. It's that they don't have anything to talk about. Let's not set unrealistic expectations again. And especially not with this group who they probably threw the thing that's really scary about, especially up front, which is where they're the worst. And these are the teams that struggle are mostly bad up front. Iowa wins because they're good up front. Like that's why they win, because they're good up front, and everything else doesn't matter as much because they can figure it out.
I mean, yeah, it's like 6 guys that are going to go into the NFL draft and like 2 tight ends that'll be like, at the very least XFL players.
Yeah, and they can't for whatever reason, Kirk Ferentz is like, hey, we got this. Like, you could have a kid in Iowa that's a 5-star quarterback, and he's like, just throws the ball so much it irks me. I don't know. I don't.
Doesn't that hurt your shoulder?
Something about this kid, I don't like it. I saw him that he volunteers at animal shelters. I don't know how I feel about that. And, he's got a brother with a limp, and he always helps carry him into the thing. Like, I don't know. He throws the ball a lot. Something shady. It's all an act, but
alms for the poor, not for me.
No, not at all. And, but they're not good up front right now. And that is the thing that when you're through spring and you're through all that, that's where the panic button lives, is where, we've got a great quarterback. He can really, whip the ball around the yard. Man, this running back we got, it's great. Man, we got some wide receivers who are really athletic. And then if they stop talking after that, then you're like, this is where they're.
What else?
Oh, yeah. And they're like, we've got some linemen that have some want to. You're like, yeah.
Our safeties try hard.
Yeah. So we got, listen, you give me 11 of this guy, I'll win you a Big 12 championship. And you're like, probably not.
Look, my alma mater and Texas Tech are kind of in the same footing currently. Mm-hmm. But
your alma mater is Baylor, for those who.
Yeah, exactly. And, a Baylor product as their head coach. We should have known that things were a little in disarray after the Abilene Christian game, because Abilene spit the bit a little bit on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we should have just known. But Baron Morton, 2 interceptions, threw the ball 58 times, had 300, 300, what does it say? 23 yards, but the 2 picks. They need him to be transcendent.
Well, and look, Taj Brooks didn't play in that game, and they're going to need Taj Brooks to play if they're going to win.
Yeah.
Because basically the game was then put all on the quarterback. And in the one problem that they've had, really, look, their offense has been good in spite of the fact that their offensive line has regularly getting all their quarterbacks killed.
Yeah.
And now maybe that hasn't happened just yet, but they're still under duress. They're still not, able to sustain anything. So, yeah, Texas Tech is the team I am, when you look back on it, I'm not going to say as much because last year we kind of maybe got a little overhyped. And then once the Wyoming and Oregon happened, it was just, Wyoming was kind of a fluke because I'm not taking away from Oregon. I do think that Tech was looking ahead to Oregon so much that had the game's been flipped, it would have been better for Tech because then they would have gone to Wyoming and won that game because they wouldn't have been thinking about I can't wait for Oregon to come in here. I can't wait for Oregon to come in here. I can't wait for Oregon to come in here. And then the Oregon game happens. They had them right where they wanted them, and then it just didn't happen for them. And then I think you put a lot of eggs in that basket of, man, we really wanted to get Oregon, and then it happens again and again and again. So you're in your head. But I do think that, and Joey's strategy not to, run out a lot of hype was a smart one. But now we know why he would it probably didn't take that much convincing of hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. He's no, I agree because the
coaches know their
personnel. Yeah. And the defense is very good either. So I think that, and it's unfortunate because I think Zach Kitley's a really good offensive coordinator, but he clearly has a hole in his swing when it comes to the offensive line. So they either need to change the philosophy up a little bit to where it fixes the offensive line more. And defensively, they've got to do something all together different. So again, I don't think Joey's going to be in any kind of trouble necessarily, but he might be in that, well, maybe it's time for some new coordinators thing. And that's not unusual. So Mac Brown's dodged situations many times by just going, well, we'll just do new coordinators. Dave Aranda's done it a couple times here. And
firing coordinators is the same in the NFL where, firing coaches, so on and so forth. If for some reason buys you a little bit more time and cast the blame on fairly or unfairly on someone else, wherein, the NFL, they'll be like, well, either the coach or the coordinator is or the coach or the GM is getting fired. One saves the other one or gives the other one a certain amount of time. But once you do that, the clock starts to then now the ire is cast on you. Dave Aranda out of firing coordinators. You can no longer fire any more coordinators from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't gotten there at Texas. McGuire hasn't gotten there at Texas Tech yet.
He hasn't had to do that yet.
Yeah, he hadn't had to do that. But once you start, you set a timer.
Yeah.
Every single time.
So it either works or the next time you do it, you're okay, well, you get two coordinator changes, right? You get 2 most of the time, unless you've just been so bad. But if you have had some success.
4 total or 2 total?
So
1 defensive or 2 defensive, 2 offensive?
2 overhauls.
2 overhauls. 2 overhauls. So sometimes you don't need to change one coordinator because you're really good at that one thing.
Yeah.
So I think if it's defense, you might if your offense is really good, but your defense is really bad, you might get a run through of 3 different coordinators or one guy's a linebacker coach and you make him the defensive coordinator and that doesn't work out. And then the corner, you flip it the next year, who calls the defensive plays, those kind of things that are more simple. But yeah, you can't, especially with buyouts, you can't keep doing it because every coach has a buyout, whether the head coach or not. So especially now that the higher end assistant coaches are making $1 million a year in the SEC and between $500,000 and $800,000 most everywhere else, and up to $1 million. It's getting crazy where, okay, well, we signed this guy to a 3-year contract. We don't want to have to pay, we're going to have to sign another guy to a 3-year contract. But if we're going to fire this coach, we're going to have to pay him a $20 million buyout. Then we're going to have to pay these coordinators $2 million buyouts a piece. Not to mention the buyouts all the way down the line, which are all six figures. And so you're talking about like A&M, it wasn't just $75 million for Jimbo. It was about $82 million for everybody else they had to let go as well. So
speaking of offensive coordinators, and this may be the last time that I say this year, probably not, because I think they are entertaining. Can we talk about Kansas?
Yeah, sure.
23-17.
Mm-hmm.
The whole season hinges on can Jalen Daniels, well, one, be healthy, but is he the Heisman contender that everybody thinks or has made him out to be? They just put up a stinker against Illinois. And then, this is anecdotally what I'm seeing on Twitter. Kansas fans not super happy with Mr. Grimes up there.
No.
But Jalen Daniels, 3 interceptions, only throws for 141 yards against. And again, stop me if you've heard this before. Brett Bielema winning football games.
Yeah.
It tends to just happen at places.
Yeah.
But I don't. Was that after when they'd been running sort of the spread offensive type, run and shoot at Kansas, was implementing that wide zone scheme?
Well, they were already running the wide zone.
Were they running the wide zone? I thought they were running
the
sort of the old.
No, they're running the wide zone.
West Coast run and shoot.
But they were running the wide zone concepts. That's why they brought him in.
Well, then this completely is against the point. But
but did they bring in the right wide zone guy?
Yeah.
Andy Kotelnicki is probably on his way to being a head coach soon, and Jeff Grimes has probably stalled on that a little bit. I still think Jeff Grimes is a good coach, but he might need a refresh in where some of his concepts are, because I think it
seems to me he's kind of been figured out.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's been figured out a little bit.
Right.
Which I think he's smart enough to refresh it, but can you refresh it in real time?
Yeah.
Right now?
Because Kansas wants to win right now.
They've got a great opportunity to win the Big 12 with the talent they have in that roster. But when you go out and you offensively play a game like that, it calls into question, can you really do this?
Yeah. And of course, Devin Neal is electric, 14 carries for 101. It just seems to me they're probably going to have to get him the ball a lot more. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where to look at it. I'm just saying that there was chatter on X, which is, a hell site. So take it for what it's worth. But there's chatter on X of Kansas fans not super happy with that hire. And so Baylor and Kansas were sort of kindred spirits.
Yeah.
For a weekend at least.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We're only going to do one more segment here because we have to stop early today because we've got to record Troy Calhoun.
Whatever.
Yeah. So, Royden, my apologies that
I'm not here last week.
Yeah. And this week we've cut you this is your punishment. Troy Calhoun is bumping you.
Yeah. Well,
so,
sure.